This is a production of the AJ Podcast Network.
Pushing and pulling, I want you, but you wanna leave. I hate you, I love you, you love me, yeah, you gotta be. If I'm your cage, leave. But if you stay with me, eventually we'll find happy.
Here we go again with another episode of the Passage Home Podcast starring the Dr. Stanley Rushing, and I'm your co-host, Bax Civilian. Now, please visit us on www.linktree.com/Passage Home Podcast. There you can find all of our links where you can listen to our shows. No, don't forget to ask Alexa to play the Passage Home Podcast from iHeartRadio. And while you're at it, don't forget about my other podcast starring my boy AJ, where me, myself, and my newest co-host, Anne-Marie. The name of that podcast is called I Can Relate to That. You can look us up on www.linktree.com/AJ and Bax. No, don't forget to ask Alexa to play I Can Relate That podcast on iHeartRadio. If you are interested in getting a hold of us or interested in sponsoring our show, go ahead and drop us a line at passagehomepodcast@gmail.com. Now, without any further ado, Dr. Stanley Rushing, how you doing today, sir?
Amazing. By the grace of God, everything is amazing.
Always.
And yes, so today I'm honored to have a close friend, a confidant, a brother, a spiritual brother, and we bounce a lot of stuff off each other. And he's also a patient of mine. He's one of my number one receivers of my medications and my nutraceuticals. Without further ado, I want to introduce Andre-Vaughn-Gibson, Sr., also known by his stage name as Antar, and we will, as we relate to his life and what he has to bring to the table, we're gonna include in the description some of his world-renowned music that he's done. Without further ado, I want to introduce and ask the first question of Mr. Vaughn-Gibson to relate to us a brief bio. And I say brief, it's for a purpose because he would take up the whole show, like a lot of my guests. Antar, it's on you.
Okay. Well, first of all, I am humbled to be on the podcast. I've been listening, and I'm blown away at the knowledge and the wisdom and the understanding from the principles that you've had on the show. And Dr. Stanley is one of the most honorable, humblest people I've ever met in my life. He gives from his heart. When he heals people, he prays over it, and from the Most High. And a lot of people that I know that have horrible conditions are now healed, and as well as myself. I've had MS and sugar diabetes, and he has helped me without dealing with the pharmaceutical companies. He has helped me address these issues. And I am in far better shape now than I've ever been since initially I had to deal with these problems. My name is Andre-Vaughn-Gibson. I'm known as Antar. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I grew up in church. My father was a Baptist minister, and he spoke like Dr. King and sung like Nat King Cole. So when I would see the response that he would get from the church members and the intensity and the sincereness of his projection, I, of course, being the only son, I have 5 sisters, I wanted to be like my father. And I didn't know that I was going to end up being a singer. I was singing in church and traveling choirs and all that. So then, ironically, at that same time, when I was a young man, he was booking Mahalia Jackson, Sam Cooke, the Soul Stirrers, at the churches in St. Louis, especially his. And I remember the gospel music. If it wasn't for brothers like my father and various different people in the industry that understand marketing, that was the outlet for gospel singers back in the 50s and the 60s and even the 70s. Because they would do pastor anniversaries and the whole church would show up for this minister and vice versa. They would do that throughout the South. And they would have these stars like the Soul Stirrers and Sam Cooke. And ironically, I ended up finding out that Sam Cooke was my second cousin. But through my journey in St. Louis, I became the youngest singer. Andre-Vaughn-Gibson, he used to call me Slim and Trim. Mr. Cool was performing at the various different venues when I was 18, 19, and 20 years old. And the very day that I was supposed to sing my new song to the public on December 22nd, my father had heard it, loved it, and the very day that I was supposed to sing it, he passed away. And I wasn't able to finish. I wasn't able to do it, but what it did, it skyrocketed me into leaving and being away from there and trying to create my own path out here. And I ended up running into some very powerful people. I ended up meeting and performing with Eddie Kendricks. Actually booked him in 1983 at the NCO Club in Denver, Colorado. Opened up his show twice because he had a surrounding date, and I got to hear a lot about the truth about Motown, what really happened in that era, and what was going on. Then, ironically, Otis Williams in 1995, because Ollie Woodson, one of the greatest singers I've ever known, was a friend of mine. He used to bring me on stage at the Jack the Rapper convention, which was a black music convention in Orlando and in Atlanta. It would go on for 4 days. All the stars, actors, music directors, record labels, all of them would show up there to see who would be the new artist. So Jack the Rapper put his picture on the back of my album because Mrs. Jackie Wilson heard me singing at SeaWorld in Orlando and said that I sound just like her husband and asked what I do, a Memories of Jackie album, so we could raise funds to help purchase a mausoleum for the late, great Jackie Wilson, because Stevie Wonder and the city of Detroit all participated in this, and my album was used as a catalyst to raise the funds. And the name of the album is Memories of Jackie by Antar, Antar. You can Google that, but even to this day, it is still selling, which was 34 years ago. And then recently, about 4 years ago, I finally did something on my own, and the album is called Antar because I didn't want to lose my old fans, and so it's on Amazon. But
let me stop you before you get too far.
Okay.
You left out one thing. What did they do with the funds? How much did the album make, and what did they do with part of the funds that came from the sales of the Jackie Wilson album?
Well, the album sold over 11 million copies. Unfortunately, in this industry, when you don't write the songs, the people that put it out there, they make all the money through recoupables and then give you 5% royalties. And ironically, I never made a dime. And the proceeds was used to purchase the mausoleum for the late, great Jackie Wilson, because he was buried in a pauper's grave in New Jersey. And when Jack the Rapper started the fundraiser, it was a huge thing, and everybody participated. And the album, once again, was used as a catalyst. And they dug him up and they put him in a grave in Detroit, Westbury. And that's where the funds went to purchase the mausoleum. I think it was over 76,000 that was utilized for that. It was a beautiful mausoleum. I was sitting with Muhammad Ali, and he was sitting next to me along with Sabrina, Jackie's daughter, who I knew, ironically, didn't even know it was Jackie Wilson's daughter. I used to date her friend when I was 16 in St. Louis. And then I see her again 14 years later at the burial site in Detroit, and she said, "Antar, you're Andre?" So I said, "Yeah." I mean, talk about a small world. And then ironically, she ended up moving from Malibu, California, to Las Vegas. I'd seen her again a few years ago. But so the proceeds was used to purchase the mausoleum. Now he's buried respectably. Matter of fact, his son, Bobby Wilson, looks exactly like him, dances just like him. He doesn't sing like him, but he's got a nice voice. Well, I was introduced to him by Amir Bayan, which is a mutual friend of me and Stan's. He's Cool and the Gang's brother. He wanted to be, by the way, Stanley on the podcast, but he had to go out of town. I wanted to know if he can hook up with you maybe tomorrow, next week, and do that.
Problem.
And so I met Bobby Wilson. He was doing the Legends thing down here in Las Vegas. And when I met him, I couldn't believe it because he had the video of Jackie Wilson, the background vocalist, and then you had him on stage with with white women background vocals doing the exact same thing. You cannot tell them apart. And so when he found out what I did for his dad, he thanked me, hugged me, and then he flew to Detroit and took a picture of the mausoleum, and now he used it as a part of his EPK package. So I feel honored to give a man that was probably one of the greatest entertainers on the planet, that Michael Jackson and Prince, when they were young, used to go and watch. And I was honored because he catapulted me. By him being gone, it gave me my opportunity to do what I love to do, which is to sing and impact people.
So I'm gonna have to kneecap you right here because, like I said, your resume will take up and bio will take up the whole show. I'm gonna bring up some other things, but we cover some key things. So now, for my audience out there, and to keep up with the motif of the show, I want to ask you that Andre had to do research to qualify him as a participant in this podcast, and he just made it by hair. One of the qualifications is that for the next question I'm going to ask, what did it feel like when you first landed in Africa, and what did you feel spiritually?
I felt like I had died and went to heaven because, being a black man in this country, you always realize that you've been kidnapped, and you're adapting to being kidnapped for the last 400 years. And so your connection to the spiritual prowess and power that we had in Africa is dissipated because they have taken over your mindset, and you have to emulate them in order for you to survive in their environment. And then they still kill you. And so, and then take you out and take your kids out. And so the compensatory reparation and restitution that's owed to our people, even if they started now for 400 years, it wouldn't be enough. So going to Africa, being in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, I'd never been overseas before. So going to Europe, I've never been to Europe. I was 43 years old at the time, and I had my own Temptations group, Tribute to Temptations group. So I went there, and when I went to Europe, I went to Switzerland, and I went to Belgium before I got to Madrid. And in my journey, I was so blown away because in the airports, all you see is black pictures of Jesus, the Black Madonna, all these aerostats, all these important black people in Europe. Pictures of black Russians, picture of black. These, I didn't realize that Europe was conquered by the Moors for 700 years. I didn't know the impact that it had on that society. So when I got to Mallorca, Spain, which is in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, an island called Mallorca, is Mallorca, Menorca, and Ibiza, the Canary Islands. And I used to wonder, how is it that all this sand would be all over my vehicle and all over the country? You'll see this intense Sahara desert wind and the sand from it, and that's how close I was to Africa. And the Nigerians would come over there and do their thing, and so you had everybody from various different black countries trying to act like they were American blacks, because American blacks loved so deeply, not only in Europe but in Africa, because they're looking at us to be their future, and the ultimate utopia is to act like us and be like us, because they wear the baseball caps. So the reason why I found out, because a lot of the females, when I be singing, they were telling me about the other guys that was not American, but had them thinking that they were. Yeah, wannabes. And we are the black women and black men is beloved. If they knew how much they were loved, they would never be in America. You know, America has lied about who we are. We're the first footprint everywhere on the earth, and our spiritual connection to Africa, it was almost as if there was an abortion. You know, we were taken away from our home. We were taken away from our mother country. So we've had the best of us from being our women being raped and our men being raped to demasculate the black man for him to ever think about trying to be free. That inferiority complex and that way to survive, it took away from the masculinity of the man, because they had us wearing dresses, and the women always in history go for the conquerors. So our sisters had to adapt to a kidnapped environment just to survive, and then we still was not able to maintain the power of black power, because without your family you have no power. So they separated us like animals, and so to be in Africa and to be around Africans. And I was so blown away. I actually, when I would not be performing, I would go to a place and I would start speaking on this hill. There were a number of Nigerians, people from Ghana and all that was there. They was listening, and I was letting them know that we miss the even idea of being what a home is. We have no idea. You know, to live in captivity, you just survive and adapt and take care of your family and make sure they're taken care of. But then you're in an environment that's not conducive for us to be here. So to meet Stan and Dr. Stan, and to listen to his journey and the impact that he has had on Africans and on Americans, and trying to get us to understand that they've been murdering and killing us and destroying us for 400 years. We're going to wake up and realize that no matter what we do and how we act, they can't stand us, because they know the truth about who we are. And so you're able to spread your wings and feel like a human being when you, because I'm giving you a prime example of what I was speaking about. I was with my wife at the time, and so this Spanish lady came up to us. She was an older woman, about 60 something years old at the time. And she couldn't speak the English, but she was asking my wife to help her with buttons on the back of her neck. Now, in this country, in this racist, polarized country, that seems, in America, that that's a big question. We were shocked that she would feel that comfortable, and so she straightened her button out, and then we realized we was no longer in polarized racist apartheid in the United States. So we were in a country that you can just be your total self. There were so many different colors there that nobody was tripping off crayons like they do over here. And
Right,
and
right.
so
Hold on a second. Max, get um, I'm gonna ask you if you have any questions in a minute. But on what Antar is saying, let me put it like this: when you go to Europe, they don't have something that we have, and he just described it. They don't have personal space, and you can get up close to people and touch people. I was in Belgium, and I was
Yes.
riding a train, and this train was it had to be about 60, 70, 80 years old. And so the seats, when you sit across from somebody, it was so close together that you literally had to sit with your leg between somebody else's leg on both sides in order to sit down.
Right.
And the people never, it didn't mean anything to them because they weren't into to personal space. Oh, you touched me. Oh, you too close to me.
Exactly.
So I'm sitting on a train across from a woman who was in full hijab,
Right.
uh, and with a veil over the slit in the that she had for her eyes.
Right.
The dress from head to you couldn't even see her shoes and
No.
stuff. And her husband was sitting next to her, and he looked like if there was a white um uh, no, he looked like a Muslim that would be in a picture with a sword, one of those big swords that was fat at the end and narrowed down towards the handle. The
Right.
one that they used to cut people. He looked exactly like that guy. And
Wow.
as I sat there and I sat down, my leg was between her leg, and as the train rattling back and forth, my leg is going back and forth, touching her legs on both sides.
So you didn't know that ISIS was gonna deal with you right there.
and, and so check this out. This guy never looked at me. And I sat
Wow.
there, I was sweating like an animal. And so she never looked at me. And
Wow.
I could see her eyes through the slit. And she never looked at me. And so
Wow.
but I just wanted to share that. But they don't have personal space.
They do
And
not have that personal space. They do not have the polarization. I do remember though they did have problems with the Africans that were coming over to Spain at that particular time because there was a lot of pain in the country because they were divided and they were fighting against each other. Actually,
right,
the compound, the King Juan Carlos compound, in 1999, I was able to be in a flat on the beach in Calamuyor, and the police that was the Guardia Civil that was guarding the compound where the king was, always had their laser lights on the apartment that I had next to the compound. It was pretty deep, but the people, the Europeans that I met, I have never, when you have a certain understanding about your oppressor, you don't know that they didn't start off like that. What I experienced in Europe, I would speak about the various different things that happened to our people over here. And I had grown men, Italians, Greeks, and all trying to get me to come to their dinner and their family. And they literally cried in front of me. And they could not believe the reality of our existence in this where we were kidnapped at. And I suggest to every black man and woman, please follow Dr. Stan's lead about visiting our home. If you don't know where your home is, then that means you're stuck in the middle of captivity because you have no understanding of your origin and the various different cultures and things that we have come from that cause our spiritual proudness and our connection to the Creator. They detach that, and that's why there's an anything goes mentality over here because it's an amoral scenario over here in this country. So it's very deep When I used to see the sisters, the beautiful African sisters, I was like, oh my God, all these years we've been away from home. And most of our people don't even know what it's like to feel at home. They have no idea. So I believe that the United States, when they pay the reparation and restitution, they owe every black person at least $1 million to not only be able to go travel to their home, but to find out their roots and to see some lost probably family members. It's healing for us. You know, we suffer from PTSD. That's when people come back from war and being embattled, and then they never get themselves together and recoup. And the ones that do, they had the medical for that, but we didn't. We don't have that. We've been murdered, raped, used for free labor for 400 years, and then Jim Crow. And then they burned down our cities of all the progressive brothers that did become great businessmen. They burned us up. When we go to fight their wars, they burn us up in the uniform. So the United States has showed us that they don't want us here, even though we were the first footprint here. And because the indigenous Indians were our brothers, the Seminole Indians was our brothers. You know, I want people to look this up and go to the second Seminole Indian War. That was between 1834 and 1841, 7 years. United States, Monroe, all of them spent so much money trying to, because Florida was colonized by Spain. And so the Seminole Indians was a black Indian tribe. It used to be the Creek Indians in Georgia. And so the slaves would run away from Georgia and South Carolina and come across that border. And when they got to Miami, the Spanish and the Seminole fought the white slave catchers. And so it got so bad that the army, the Union Army, was sending regiments down there, and 20,000 at a time, and sometime maybe 100 would come back, because those brothers and Seminoles and the ex-slaves they had a master guerrilla warfare in those swamps. So the United States at that time was spending millions and was losing. So for the first time, we should know that we fought them back. And look up John Horse. John Horse was one of the greatest warriors for our people ever in history. Please look up the Second Seminole War with the United States government, and you'll see that the United States had a peace treaty with us, and because we were whooping that head. I mean, we were whooping them down. And so it's very necessary. It's very necessary for our people to know that we were men and our women, and we fought against our oppressors and we beat their ass. Excuse my French. I'm so sorry. But I just wanted.
So let me ask you a question. The last question, the last question, from what you've seen over there, what can you suggest to the average black, who may come aware, to let them know they can thrive over there? And you like my Junior James Bond, you can thrive anywhere.
I can tell you, I didn't know no Spanish, but I was about the agent that had me over. He could speak no Spanish, but they loved African Americans. They loved the group. If you could adapt to this racist society over here, people that don't have that racism in them, and they don't have that insecurity about themselves, and when they know the truth about who we are, they're amazed that we're there. So it's nothing but love there. I was voted by 600 acts from Australia, from England, from Ireland, all over the country that had different tribute acts to the Beatles, to the Drifters, the Platters, whatever. I was blessed to be voted #1 each year that I was there for 3 years. And I had to take the chip off of my shoulder. Because when I got there, during the sound check, I had my do-rag on, I'm yoked up and I'm looking at, the white folks the way we looked at them over here, and the brothers that was in the groups, the young brothers and the Drifters and the Platters that had been living a good life there, they said, Antar, no, man, it's not like that, man. It's lovely here. I said, no, they keep looking at me, man. it was like 400-500, because they were just getting ready to eat, and we were doing our sound check. So I would look back at them, and then I realized that he said, man, they're blown away that you're from America and that you're the tip. They don't care nothing about nothing else, but they're happy to be here. I'm like, wow. So I had to take my guards down a little bit because I was not in America no more. I was not in hell. I was not in prison. No matter how much money you make in this country, you are still considered second class and a nigga in their mindset. They don't know. Michael Jordan made a comment. He said, no matter how much money that you make in this country, the racism, it saps the soul out your body. And so your soul is your essence, your spiritual understanding. If you're not free enough to fly, then that means that you're trapped in the mindset of your oppressor. And so anything that...
So wait a minute. So that brings us to the end, because what you just said, that if you're trapped, which means you're caged.
Yes.
That's our closing song for this. If Bax don't have a question, we got 2 minutes.
Well, you know what? My questions, I feel like it's going to take over 2 minutes. But what I will say is this, is that the fact that every time we bring somebody on this show and they keep talking about the love that we get is just marvelous, because it shows that there was somebody or something or some entity that was always trying to distract us from wanting to go home by just creating this false image or this false ideology, is that our people over in Africa don't really like us. So
exactly.
So the fact that every time I hear that I hear that is not true, it makes, I was going to go anyways, but it just makes me more warm and anxious to want to go.
They love us.
Anyway.
They love us. They want to be like us.
Yeah, definitely.
They love us, and they feel so bad, because see, we never had a ship to come save us. We had to save ourselves with the Most High. And so it's very powerful, but know one thing, that if Africa was as bad as what they tell you, you wouldn't have the Chinese and all the Europeans over there. Every dime that they had in Europe that made them rich and famous and class, all that, the Moors provided that. They conquered Europe for 700 years because the white man was living in cages and living in barns, even the kings, until the Moors taught them how to be civilized, to walk upright, and had paved streets and lanterns and libraries and stuff that they created. So any culture that they have is from us.
Right. That's an awesome thing. And earlier you said something that was really profound, and it's not off topic because it's something that you said, but I have some listeners that actually are dealing with MS, and you said Dr. Stanley helped you with MS, whatever the case may be. Let me ask you a question. How did that affect your cognitive ability with singing and you doing your music and your creativity?
Oh my goodness. I went from concentrating on a lot of times when you're singing.
Wait a minute. Let me make this real quick for you. Andre, before, and I'm not tooting my horn, it's all by the grace of God. But when I met him, he hadn't sung in 30 years. Go from there, Andre.
Yes. And right now, I'm as confident as I am, and not even practice, I can hit a note right now that still blow the caps off my mind. So you got a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, just like a kid, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. All right, then.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So whatever connection you and Dr. Stanley had, you can say, because people that deal with that disease, they lose a lot of their cognitive function. They lose a lot of their ability to think.
Yes.
It seems like
and what Dr. Stan has done, there's an alternative to the pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceutical companies and doctors are just like mechanics, and when you come in, and even if everything is going good, they're going to find something wrong and then charge the insurance company. When you deal with Dr. Stan, he deals with the Most High, and he studies and he cares and he prays. And I went from having problems, with mucus, not being able to sing, and to now I can stand up in front of anybody, and even opera singers, and work it out, and have no insecurity about it.
Who are you cutting your next song with right now?
Huh?
Who are you singing with right now, cutting your next album?
At this particular time, Christopher Williams and Cool and the Gang, and all of them, we're going to be doing a project together, helping our youth in the, because everybody forgot about Flint, and so we're putting something together called Kool-Aid. Being able to help our people. So that's what we're concentrating on doing, a compilation album together to try to get people to pay attention to the fact that that's our future that's dying.
Wow.
So we're going to have to close out on that note and bring this brother back.
Definitely.
Oh, my God. It'd be a pleasure.
For that rendition.
Definitely.
Please like and subscribe. Please look at the description, and we're going to list some of Andre's, Antar's music and his videos. It's on you back.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stan. And
no problem.
And there we have it, with another episode of the Passage Home podcast starring the Dr. Stanley Russian. And once again, we want to thank Antar for being on the show with that lovely, lovely rendition of singing that song. He's a strong brother. He has a lot of experience, and he's just a blessing to touch the microphone of the Passage Home podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all have a great day, great evening, and may God be with you.
And God bless everybody. Thank you again.
Well, you're welcome.
Beyond the stars, beyond the sun. Remember when it all was fun? All I had to do was call, you come. And now I can't feel at all, I'm numb. And you don't hold me down, you hold me back. Back then, I wish you would've showed me that. All we do is fight, go tick for tack. This my last night.
This is a production of the AJ Podcast Network.